Can Windows be saved from itself? That's what we're going to talk about today. Last month I made a video and I was maybe a little bit doom and gloom. I was really worried about some of the new features we were seeing in the upcoming edition of Windows 11, and I'm still worried about it. I spent a few days just tinkering with Windows, seeing what I could do, trying to break things. I even installed the Windows 10 Taskbar and got it working in Windows 11 with a few bugs. I did everything. After messing around for a while, I discovered some things that have made me feel a little bit more positive about the future of Windows, and it is not because of Microsoft. It's because the community is coming to the rescue, just like they do with Bethesda games, and they're like, ooh, here's a broken mess, and they're like, all right, let's mod it and fix it. I think we might see something like that with Windows in the future. When it comes to fixing Windows, there are two things that I want to focus on. One is functionality and the second is security. So we'll cover both of those. Before I do that, let's activate your copy of Windows. And then when we come back from that, I want to talk directly to the Linux people for just a minute. I use Whokeys and I like to grab those OEM keys because the price of a Windows retail key is ridiculous. You could buy many of these keys for the price of one of those. So what's the difference? Well, an OEM key is generally tied to the hardware. Sometimes it moves, but generally just consider it to be tied to your motherboard. Other than that, you don't get the professional tech support from Microsoft. But I mean, I just use forums anyway. I've never actually used Microsoft tech support, so that's really the only difference. So to me, it makes a lot more sense to grab an OEM key when I'm activating Windows. Now, you can get Windows 11 Pro, you can get Windows 10 Pro, and one thing to note is Windows 10 Pro keys will unlock Windows 11 at this point. You might want to Google that if it's a year in the future just to make sure. We've also got the Home editions, and if you're on Windows 11 Home or Windows 10 Home, you can grab one of these Pro keys and then use it and it will unlock Pros. And then we have our different versions of Microsoft Office, like 2019, 2016. You can grab the version that you like so that you can get your work done. So I'm going to go ahead and get a copy of Windows 11 Pro. So I'm going to click on Buy Now, and I'll put it in my cart. We can put in our coupon code. Use TS25 and you'll save 25%, so even more than the promotions on the website. That'll bring that price down right there. Once you're finished placing your order, it brings you here. And then you can just click on View Keys and Codes. If you do not go directly here, go up to the top, click on your email address, click on User Center, and then in the middle of the page, it'll tell you you have an unextracted key. Extract now, yes. It'll bring you here. But if not, just click on My Purchase Orders and then View Keys and Codes. It says completed, and then right here we can do Get the Key. And right there in the middle of the page, that's your key. So go ahead and copy that, click on Start, type Activate, and it's going to give you all kinds of garbage, but just wait for it to say Activation Settings. Click on that. Once you get here, just click to change your product key. And wait. Activating Windows, you get the best experience. Yes, yes, yes. Click on Activate, and hey, we're activated. So I would much rather grab a key from Whokeys.com than that really expensive key. And I also don't like the way that Microsoft changes the prices based upon the region, and they give a huge discount to corporations and OEMs. So I think that we should get the same price as everybody, right? That's only fair. So that's why I like the OEM keys. Head over to Whokeys.com, TS25, and say thanks to them for the deal on Windows. All right, let's talk about Linux. The first thing I want to do when talking about Windows is talk about Linux, because nowadays you can't mention anything about Windows without talking about Linux first. I don't like to hedge a lot in my videos. I like to just let the commenters yell and scream or whatever, because I didn't, say, well, I hear you in the comments saying this, or I know you're going to say this. I don't like to hedge like that. But, I do think maybe I have a slightly different perspective when it comes to Linux versus Windows. And this is not going to apply to everybody, but I think a lot of Linux people are platform people. They're like platform enthusiasts or Linux enthusiasts. When you ask them what they do all day in their computer, a lot of that is going to center around using Linux, doing Linux things, researching Linux, looking up new distros, finding out if GNOME is better than Plasma, finding out if maybe they should switch to a window manager. That would be interesting. Do you like apt? No, I don't like apt. I like whatever I like better. Are you on Arch? Well, yes, I do use Reddit. That's the kind of thing I see a lot on Linux. Whereas Windows people, yes, you have some of that. You do have Windows platform enthusiasts. A lot of them are in it for the nostalgia, and they're trying to restore Windows 95 taskbars and functions from Windows 7, maybe even some Windows Vista stuff. Yeah, there's people out there who like some of the functions of Vista. There's people out there who wish they could still have the full screen Windows 8 interface. There are people who are really into that, but I don't think that that's the majority of Windows users. I think most people who use Windows are application enthusiasts. They have a few applications that they want to run, whether it be gaming or creative apps. They're really into the applications, and it just so happens that they run best on Windows. Now, you can be a little bit of both. You can be like a platform enthusiast and a software enthusiast. Maybe there's a piece of software on Linux that you're really, really fond of, and it only works on Linux. Maybe it's some server stuff. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't use Windows for any of my servers. I run Debian for all of those, and I've got all my websites on Debian. I've got a Fediverse thing on Debian. And you maybe you're like really into that. You're like really into whatever piece of software it is. Emacs. Maybe that's what it is. But I do think it is fair to say that Linux people are more into the platform than Windows people are. Then you get people like me who are kind of stuck on Windows for one reason or another. A lot of it being the fact that we're stuck to a few different creative apps, usually creative apps, or a certain game that just doesn't work well on Linux, or mods that don't work well on Linux. That's really the things that keep me on Windows. And I am a Windows platform enthusiast because I like to tweak it, I like to use it, I like the functionality of it. So yes, there are both, and for the people who need to stick on Windows, I think that it's the platform enthusiasts that are going to be pushing it in the correct direction. Now, while I'm not crazy about coding, I have done a few different things here to try to help Windows move in the right direction, and we'll cover that when we get to some of the functionality talk in just a second, which I guess we could start right now. Before we move away from this section, if you're just kind of sick of Windows and you want to move over to Linux, maybe we can talk about that more in the future. I was using Debian on my laptop. I say was, I still am using Debian 12 on my laptop, but recently I ran into some issues, and that's the thing with Linux is a lot of times you'll be doing stuff and then you'll be like, hey, I want to install these applications, and something doesn't work and you can't figure out what doesn't work, and so the next thing you know, you're reinstalling Linux, because sometimes it's easier to just do that, because you'll spend all day troubleshooting, whereas it just takes 30 minutes to reinstall your operating system. So yeah, that Linux is not there for everybody yet. People who want to mess around, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to recommend this. Now, this was recommended by somebody on the Fediverse. I'm not sure if you're okay with me saying your name, so I'll just say thank you so much for talking about this, because I was kind of stuck in the Debian mindset, because a lot of things are made for Ubuntu, which is Debian in the back end. So I thought there was going to be more compatibility, and I thought Steam was still on Debian. But I found out that Steam is now on Arch, and this is not Arch, but if you want Arch, this is probably a good place to start right there. And then there's plenty of support on Reddit, because everybody on Reddit uses Arch. But yeah, anyway, OpenSUSE is interesting to me because out of the box it uses BTRFS, good old ButterFS, and it has a very handy tool to let you roll back. So if you've messed something up in your operating system, you can just roll that back instead of having to reinstall your operating system. So that could be something cool to test out. And I might install this, now that I know that Steam is no longer just Debian, it's supported by other things. Again, I know OpenSUSE is not Arch or Debian really, it's, its own little thing, but enough of that. Microsoft has made a couple changes. I like to think that maybe it was because I yelled and screamed so much. So I complained a lot about the drag and drop feature being gone. So I've modded it back in here, but they're putting that back in where you can drag and drop stuff to the actual, what's this called? The address bar. So you'll be able to drag and drop things right here, and they'll go into their respective folders. So thanks very much, Microsoft, for that. And it's going to be an optional update soon, but it'll be back in Windows. So I don't know why they removed it. Some people say they removed it so that they could add features in the future, but I don't know. That doesn't make too much sense to me. So anyway, Microsoft may add some features back in there for power users. That last video got me really going down a lot of rabbit holes, and it got me thinking, like, is the Windows Explorer, which is the file browser, is that the best thing that Windows has to offer? And I don't think it is. It doesn't have different panes. You can't separate this into different multiple panes. Now, this one's really pretty, and it works very well on Windows 11. It doesn't work so well on Windows 10 from my experience, and there's still little problems here and there. But I think when this matures, it could be the one. It could be, because it's really pretty. It looks like, it fits into Microsoft Windows 11, but it has way more features. I had a couple crashes. I had a couple issues where I couldn't drag and drop things from Firefox, or when I did, it created a massive bitmap instead of actually dragging and dropping. And I just had general drag and drop issues with this program, and they were better on Windows 11 than Windows 10. But hopefully this will get fixed soon. And this is completely free if you download it right here on their website. If you go and click right here on download files, it'll bring up the Microsoft Store, where you can pay money. And this is just to support them. If you don't want to do that, You don't have to pay. It's not a paid program. You can just click Classic Installer right there. So, if you don't have extreme needs, check this out. It's beautiful. It works very well. And then we have some others that are interesting and promising if you really like style. The Sigma file manager is very interesting. I think this it's very alpha. It feels very alpha. It's another promising solution when it comes to having another file explorer. The one I've used the most lately is One Commander. And I like it. I don't love it, but it does things better than the Windows native stuff. You can have multiple panes. You can have it just works better. The style of it's whatever. I mean, you can edit it if you want to edit some. I guess they're not XML. I forget what they are. You can edit some of the files to change the style, but it looks good and it works well. But this is not open source. There's a professional version. Gives you a few more things. I think 99% of the people will be just fine with the free version. But it's going to be under this because this is free. And then we got Double Commander, which is kind of similar to Directory Opus, or actually more similar to Total Commander, but a little more modern. So there are options here, and that's, I think, really promising. I think if this one really steps up and fixes a few of the bugs, and I think it will over the years. I think they'll figure this out, especially with the drag and drop. I think this one will be the one that I use. It's beautiful, it works well, and I don't know, just a really nice file manager. A lot of options. Maybe not as many options as One Commander, but the layout works better with my brain. So that's going to be, whatever works better for you. You pick that one. Yeah, there's people making stuff. Normally it would just like Linux has all the options, but now people are making stuff and we're seeing cool new projects for Windows, and there's a bunch of them. Some of them are going to survive, some of them are not going to survive. Now, let's talk about the taskbar, because that was a big problem I had with Windows 11. And I didn't think about this. I don't know why. I kept thinking about, let's fix the taskbar. Let's make the taskbar work a different way. People over at Retrobar, they're like, let's just replace the taskbar. So you might see on the bottom here that I have a totally different taskbar. See this? Properties. I've made a video on this. I'll release it very soon. But also made a whole bunch of dark themes for everybody. So let's say you want to do, let's do Windows XP purple. I made this purple theme. It looks ridiculous. And if we take off the lock, check it out, everybody. Yes, you can move it to the side. You can move it to the top. It works. This taskbar is like from the Vista Windows 95 all the way up to Vista. It's that era. And also Windows 7 had an option, but changes the workflow so that now we have a quick launch area, which I'd forgotten how much I loved. I hate the way Windows 11 moves all the icons around as things open up. And now I can see this over here, and I can quickly and easily see what I have clicked on down here, what I can click on down here. It's so much better. And Windows does have the option to expand everything so that you can see the words, but it does so in between all the icons. So the icons are constantly moving across the bottom. It's a mess. So anyway, if you want to try out Retrobar, what you need to do on Windows 11 is hide your taskbar so that it goes down to the bottom, and then this will go right in that spot, and the Windows 11 taskbar will not pop up. Every now and then I've had a couple issues where I'll be messing with something else, some of my other Windows settings, and my entire desktop screen will start to flicker. You just got to restart Retrobar, and then it works. But that's like happened to me a couple times over like the 3 weeks that I've been messing around with it. So it's very stable. It works very well. And what's interesting about that is it's based on some of the technology behind the scenes from Cairo Desktop. Now, Cairo Desktop is a full-on desktop replacement. I mean, it's like replaces your entire shell. It works. I mean, it's a different workflow. And I think it's interesting because it's a workflow that's not like Mac OS. Not really. I'd say it's more like Mac OS than it is like Windows, but it's not like the start menu, and it's also not like the Mac OS icons with the Finder, so it's something different. And I like things that are different. I want to see more different ideas for what to do with my desktop. Because really, since Windows 95 showed up, that's been the desktop for most people, and it even went over into Linux. You got, Plasma and XFCE and Cinnamon, and a whole bunch of desktop environments are very, very similar to Windows in that way, with the start over in the corner and the taskbar and all just, task stuff going on, and the system tray just very similar. GNOME is a little different. It didn't used to be as different, but I think with the later versions of GNOME, it's a little different. and Unity's a little different in Ubuntu, and then you got all the Windows managers and stuff, of course, with different distros. But I think a lot of stuff is very similar to the original Windows, and I think it's cool when we see something like this that kind of goes in a different direction. But it's not for me, but maybe it's for you, so take a look at that. But they also did something awesome. They created Managed Shell, which is, I've heard some people say that it's buggy, but it also works. When it works, it works. It gives developers access to the Windows shell so that they can create things like this really cool taskbar down here on the bottom. Now stay tuned, my video for this will be live soon, and I'll go through and show you everything you need to know about that. But I'll go ahead and give you access to my themes right now. There's some dark themes. I'll put those in the description because I made a whole slew of dark themes for this. All the dark themes, and for people like me who like it even darker, midnight themes with a little bit of a midnight blue purple hue, as you can see, kind of a slate gray midnight blue purple hue. So whichever one you like. If you don't like that and you just want dark mode, well, here's your Windows 2000 dark mode. Anyway, I'm not going to do a full-on thing on this because that'll be coming in a future video. And right here, I'll put this link down there so you can get these. If you're interested in paid applications, Start 11 will work with Windows 11. Now, Start 11 is interesting because a lot of the hacks were trying to bring back old functionality, but Windows 11 has been removing a lot of the old code, so those old hacks end up breaking. And I'm talking that's happening right here with Explorer Patcher. As we get new versions of Windows 11, stuff continues to break. A lot of this still works, but the Windows 10 taskbar is completely gone now. So now we have to use other hacks. It still does a lot of cool stuff, like gets rid of the rounded corners and lets you change the right-click menu, which I enjoy, but there's a lot of applications that'll let you do that. Also, I found that Windhawk works great in Windows 11. Windhawk is a program that lets you download all kinds of plugins to change the look, the style, the feel, and the functions of Windows 11. And these didn't work mostly on the newest version of Windows. It's not even available to the public yet, the 24H2 that I tested out. Most of these did not work. So they're also trying to do some hacks that, you know, are bringing back functionality that's still there in the code, but it's not working. But one of the cool things about Windhawk is it's actively worked on. You can get mods, you can make mods, and I think as we move into the future, stuff will be updated, stuff will change, and we're going to get answers to a lot of the things. So Windhawk is at the top of my list as well when it comes to finding programs that are going to help us fix Windows and make it functional in the way that we like. And if you're someone who really likes the Mac OS style taskbar, well, then TaskbarXI is what you need. So I'll scroll down here and take a look. This is what it looks like there. Yeah, that looks kind of like Linux, kind of like Mac. There you go. This is not enough for me. I mean, if it's enough for you, if you're just doing stuff that, you know, a few programs open at the same time and you don't have 9,000 windows open at the same time like me where you need to see everything and you can work faster this way, more power to you, but I need this. But yeah, that's there. And all these links are in the description again. Another thing when it comes to functionality we need to talk about is ARM, because Windows is really pushing for ARM. A lot of that has to do with the functionality in their AI stuff. ARM seems to do really well for that. There's AI processing on that, but also really low power. So way back in the day, Microsoft made their Surface tablets and they were powered by ARM, and they had ARM only operating systems that only worked with their modern ARM apps. And that was a disaster because they didn't fully commit to making it a tablet. They made it a laptop tablet. It was like really just a really thin laptop. All the pictures, everything, they showed it as a pretty much a laptop, and they wanted it to be, they could not just commit to making it one thing or the other. When you look at Apple, they're like, this is a MacBook. It's got OS 10 on it. Then they're like, this is an iPad. It's got a totally different operating system on it. It's got a totally different set of apps. Some of them are obviously going to be working on both. There's versions for both, but it's two different things. And Windows has never been able to do that. They keep trying to be like, this is a desktop and it's also a tablet, and it's kind of both. And they just kind of like, it's no. It's some unholy mess. You don't need to please everyone with one device, Microsoft. But I feel like they're going to try to do it again. And that's what we're going to see with all their ARM-based stuff. But this time what they're doing is giving us x86 emulation, because the ARM stuff is so powerful now, it can do a pretty good job at emulating old x86 applications. So you're going to have all your modern apps and everything, but the old apps will work with maybe some caveats. The main one being drivers. A lot of drivers are not going to work, because that's where emulation is going to break down, because it needs to have direct access to the hardware. So if you're trying to get some old printer drivers working, maybe that ain't going to be a good idea. Let's see here. Let's they say don't worry, your ARM applications are going to work, but yeah, right, just what I was saying. Printer drivers, of course. Yeah, some of the old drivers are just not going to work. I would imagine some older games and stuff are not going to work as well, and I'm not sure what the performance hit is going to be, because all this ARM stuff so far, they have not talked about gaming. I mean, the Snapdragons, they're super crazy fast until you mention the word gaming, and then it's like, can we not talk about that? They are going to work with dedicated graphics cards, but I mean, you're way better off just getting an AMD if you want like an integrated graphics card. Anyway, the ARM stuff is going to be something we're going to have to look at in the future, but right now it looks like drivers are going to be the thing to worry about the most. All right, now it's time to talk about security, because that's something else that we are going to have to address. We're going to have to figure out ways to secure Windows, and let me just tell you right now, if security is your number one thing, and it's more important to you than the ecosystem, it's more important to you than the applications that you run on a daily basis, it's more important to you than anything, then you need to be on Linux. You probably shouldn't be on the internet in the first place. You probably shouldn't be watching me on YouTube right now. We've sacrificed so much. One day maybe we'll rise up and slay our masters, but until then, we're stuck with this. This is the way that we are communicating as humans. Anyway, you're going to have to go to Linux if you want full-on security. But right now, there's a lot of nonsense going on with Microsoft, and they are again going in absolutely the wrong direction. And recall should be it should be the wake-up call for Microsoft, because they are obviously clueless. They created this feature, and it's supposed to run locally on your device and take. You've seen all the stuff, I'm sure, right? It takes snapshots all the time of what you're doing so that the AI can look at it and then help you, right? That's what it's doing. And it's going to, they said, hey, don't worry, it's going to be encrypted. It's going to be on your hard drive. It's not going to be on our hard drive. It's encrypted. No, I don't care where it's going to be. That sounds like a mess. And if someone gets physical access to your computer, or if someone can log into your device or do a man-in-the-middle attack or whatever, and you have an active session with that stuff open, and there's pictures of your credit card or your bank information, your crypto nonsense, your whatever. If any of that's on there, they're going to see it. It's the dumbest thing, and here's the thing. Nobody was asking for this. Microsoft made this, and they offered it like, we have just invented the thing. This is it. This is the thing. And it's like, everyone was like, the fuck? And nobody asked for this. So that's how clueless Microsoft is now. They're making stuff based upon, I have no idea where this came from. It makes no sense. I thought at first maybe this makes sense if they want to have like total surveillance on a Google style level, but they say that they're not going to look at it, which I don't believe at this point, but they've promised that it's on your system. It's for you. They try to market it as a functionality thing. It's going to make your life better. I don't understand what problem this is solving. I literally don't. There's a million ways to do what you want. If you're like, oh, you forgot what you're doing, you have to go back and find out. There's history on your browser. You can Control-Shift-T to bring up your previous tab that you closed. I don't know. No, did anyone ask for this? Nobody asked for this. Anyway, that kind of nonsense can be turned off for now. But we're going to have to be vigilant about turning this stuff off. And you can also go through Windows and turn off a lot of the stuff. You can go in and disable telemetry by checking these boxes. But are they still doing some telemetry in the background? What are they doing? Then there are programs like this. O&O Shutup 10++. It works for Windows 10 and 11. I've seen a lot of people yell and scream about this being bad because it disables too many functional pieces of Windows, but just sticking to the stuff that's like, there's like a safe list that you can, you can say like, oh, just apply the safe stuff. I've used it for years and never had any problems. So that's an anecdote. That's not based on any sort of statistics, but I've used it on multiple machines, and I've had zero problems. So I'm going to keep using this, and I'll let you know how it goes. If it breaks Windows, I'll just uninstall it, but I hope it doesn't. And then we have other things like your web search, this nonsense here. I don't see it that often because, get out of here, Toms. I don't got time for you. I don't see it that often because I'm running an alternate start menu and an alternate taskbar, so I don't see any web results when I type here. Look, nothing. No web results because I have it all turned off. You can turn it on and off inside this is classic shell, or I guess they call it open shell now. I keep calling it classic shell, but yeah, you can turn it on and off inside here, but you'll need to turn it off inside Windows. There's a registry hack right now to turn it off. I thought the newer version of Windows had an off switch, but maybe that was just Start 11 or something I installed. There's a lot to consider when it comes to privacy. But right now it looks like we can turn a lot of that telemetry nonsense off-ish, and a lot of the web stuff off-ish. But yeah, if we're really going to get serious about this, we're going to all be living in caves, because this video you're watching on YouTube right now, Google's crawling up your butt and seeing what you had for dinner. Everything you're doing on the web, somebody's following you around with some cookies or something, unless you're running some good ad blockers or you have a pie hole running, which I do, but a lot of people don't have a pie hole running anywhere. So yeah, there's a lot of trackers following you all over the web. But I think the future is promising because the community is looking at this stuff and they're saying, Microsoft, what are you doing? All right, I guess we have to fix this, because the people who are enthusiasts about Windows and enthusiasts about this platform are saying we've got to have a functional platform for our future. We've got to be able to use this in the ways that we need to use it. And maybe there's some things that keep us on Windows, whether it's nostalgia, which is a valid point, I think. Just familiarity, which is kind of valid, and it's valid if you say it's valid. If you I'm familiar with this, I want to stay on it. I don't have time to mess around with Linux. That's valid. But for me, it's really just a few programs that are keeping me on Windows. And the other thing is that a lot of times when I switch over to Linux, I spend so much time messing around with the operating system, and I don't want to do that. I'm more into the applications. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go mess around with some video game stuff I'm working on, and then I'm going to work on some music. And those are applications that work on Windows much better than they work on Linux, and that's because a lot of it just doesn't work on Linux. So bunches of videos coming soon about all this. We're going to keep on this topic a lot because I think it's important and it's interesting to me. So stay tuned for those. But next up, we're going to have a video of me talking about why I can't use Linux as a daily driver, and also I'm going to do a complete tutorial and overview on RetroBar, which I've been using for a few weeks now on all my computers, and I love it. I love this in combination with OpenShell, but yeah, this is great. We do have our keyboards on sale right now. They're still $19.99. Only got a couple boxes of these left, and they are the best membrane keyboards ever. Membrane means really silent, but I picked the ones that were the poppiest I could find, and it's water resistant, and you can change the colors. Above and beyond that, these, my favorite mouse, the one that I'm using right now here on the desk. These are on sale for half price. So grab one of these. The white ones are very limited, just so you know. But yeah, 3310 sensor. It's one of my favorite sensors still to this day. The only thing different between this one and the brand new sensors is if you want to do something like this, it's going to spin out. But if you're just doing normal stuff, it's going to be just fine. So yeah, head over to epicpants.com and grab some of that stuff that's on sale. Maybe grab some stuff that ain't on sale. See you in the comments. Ugh.